be a part of the community and understand your disease as much as you can. And don't ever think, you can't ever think that what you're doing is not impactful. A lot of these things, it's not an immediate feedback loop. You have to just keep moving forward and doing these things. And eventually things are coming together. And I think as a parent, you have to believe that.
You are listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. I'm Kyle Bryant.
And I'm Sean Baumsart. Together, we're navigating life with disability.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We have another really incredible guest that we're excited to have on today. Sean, how's it going?
Going fine. The last episode and this one, we've been having some technical difficulties, so my fingers are crossed for a good recording today.
Well, the thing, though, is, Sean, when people hear this, they're not even going to know. So please don't say that, okay?
Don't reveal our secret.
Don't let anyone know that we're just a total bush league.
That we don't know what we're doing.
Just throwing it out there. All right.
Other than that, I'm great.
Good. I'm
How are you?
so glad. I'm doing good, man. I'm reading this new book. It's really incredible. It's about this guy who invited this ex-Navy SEAL to live with them. Oh, yeah, wait, what am I talking about? You turned me on.
You already got it.
Yeah,
I
already got it, and I'm halfway through. It's really funny and good. And I read 75 pages yesterday, and then I did 20 push-ups, and
of course.
This book, for all the listeners, is called Living with a SEAL. It's by Jesse Itzler. It was on the New York Times bestseller list, and it's highly recommended. So check it out. But we're gonna jump right in here. Thomas Hamilton is a member of the FARA Board of Directors. He's on the board of Chondrial Therapeutics. He's a father. He is the co-founder of the Kira Fay Foundation, executive producer of the Ataxian. He's the CEO of a big company that makes pipes, and he's really active in the Friedreich's ataxia community. And so we are really excited to have him on the show today. Tom, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Kyle and Sean, for having me. I can't believe you've done 23 of these. I'm going to be your, 23rd least interesting guest, I hope. But we'll see.
Not at all.
That's not true at all. Well, I was just going to say, what I love about having Tom on today, he's been listening, I'm pretty sure, since episode 000, our introduction. I'm honored, of course, that you've given us feedback along the way, and you've agreed to jump on the phone with us today. So,
well, and now he sees behind the curtain and knows how it's done. And he's like, "Oh, that's all it is."
And I know about the technical difficulties too now.
Yeah.
and we just lost a fan. He's not gonna listen anymore. This is the last one he listens to.
Nice. All right, Tom. Let's start from the beginning. A long time ago, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a town called Elk Grove Village.
And you still have family out there, right, in Chicago area?
Yeah, I do. I have my parents live there, and I have there were 6 siblings. I live in New York, but I ended up spending a lot of time back in the Midwest because my whole family's there, really.
Okay.
When
you say New York, is that anywhere around New York City or
about 20 miles north of Manhattan?
Okay.
I lived in the city in New York City for 15 years, and then I met my wife when we moved out we live in a town called Rye, New York, just north of the city.
So I've yet to visit New York City. I've never been. It's on my bucket list, obviously. So can you help me with a couch or a bed if I were to visit?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'll be your guy.
All right.
I mean, a man as well-traveled as you not coming to New York is unbelievable.
I know, it's crazy.
All right, so Tom, where did you go to college and learn all the stuff that equipped you for all the things you've done?
I'm not sure college helped, but I went to University of Dayton, Ohio. It's a small, relatively small Catholic school in Dayton. A great college experience, but I'm not sure, as you guys know, anything prepares you for, rare disease activities. So.
Okay. So what was your degree in college? What did you focus on?
I had a degree in finance.
Okay. Nice. And so what were some of the jobs that you had? I understand you were on Wall Street for 25 years. We'll get into that, but what were some of the jobs that you had before that?
So my whole family, when I grew up, I actually worked at a hardware store. So my whole family worked there. I think it taught me a work ethic from the get-go. We didn't come from much, so we had to pay for high school and pay for college, and myself and all my siblings. And we all ended up working at this hardware store together. So I think it was great. Taught us a lot of skills. You may not I could change a water heater and install your toilet and all those fun things, but
yeah,
it was good training. It was good training.
Right after college, you moved to New York City. And
right.
Is that when you started working on Wall Street?
Yeah, I had a job right out of college at Salomon Brothers, which doesn't exist anymore. But I basically moved to New York, a month after I graduated Dayton, and then I ended up working in the finance industry for 24, 25 years. I went to New York thinking I'd leave in a year, and I'm still there.
Nice.
That's how I feel about this podcast. I'm like, fine, Kyle, I'll do 5 episodes with you. And
So how did you work your way up to becoming the managing director of Barclays Capital?
You make it sound so official, I had one boss actually who told me if you stick around long enough, you'll end up running the place. But I literally started in the mailroom at Salomon Brothers and worked my way up to different opportunities. I was at Citigroup for 16 years and then left there. I went to Barclays Capital to start their mortgage trading businesses. And, I was very fortunate. I had very good mentors. I had people who helped me along quite a bit. And I think, gave me a lot of, best practices and hopefully some leadership skills to push businesses along. So it was really a great experience for me.
So I watched some of your testimony in front of Congress after the stock market crash, and I have to admit that I really didn't understand anything. I could handle it for about 15 minutes. I'm like, I have no idea what they're saying. Something about like MBS and TBA and housing market reform and all this stuff. So, that's not what this episode's about, but I feel like it's probably a big part of your career.
Well, yeah, I think first of all, most people don't understand anything that happens in Congress, never mind my speech, right? I feel like when I was in the industry, and I feel like in all industries and in rare disease as well, right? You have to not just work for what you're doing, but how do you make the industry better, and how do you be a good person and a upstanding citizen within the community, right? And I spent the last part of my career really working a lot in Washington, working with a lot of the Dodd-Frank bill and a lot of the financial reforms in Washington, because I felt it was the right thing to do, right? I was part of this organization that created some of this mess, and I felt an obligation to make things better. It's about your community. It's about what you're doing for the greater good. And I think those are things that apply to rare disease. And hopefully, I've brought some of that to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you feel like when you left, did you feel satisfied, like you made an impact?
I think I did. I felt satisfied I tried.
Yeah.
Right. I think I worked as hard as I could to move the needle. Right. And at some point, some things are out of your hands. And I didn't throw my hands up or anything, but I also was, climbing up a cactus a little bit. Right. I mean, you see how things move in Washington, and it was taking a long time to do what I thought were pretty simple reforms. Some of them happened, some of them didn't, but I feel like I made the right effort, and it was time to pass the torch for others to do that.
This might be coming up in your storyline, but what caused you to leave?
Well, I'd worked for 24, 25 years or so. I was traveling all over the world. I'd go to Asia 4 times a year. I'd go to London 4 times a year. I was going to the Middle East. I had 4 young children, really. And I really didn't want the next job that was in front of me. And I think there was plenty of people around me who did. And I thought it was an opportune time within the market and within my family to spend more time with my kids. So, I tried to leave at the top of my game, and I hope I did that. But it was really a personal family decision to step back.
Sure.
And the timing was fortuitous, because as you both know, 3 months later, my daughter was diagnosed with FA.
Right. So, and FA is Friedreich's ataxia for those of you who haven't been following the podcast. But Tom, so when your daughter was diagnosed, what was your immediate reaction?
Well, I think, like most people, right, it is complete shock, right? You don't, it's one of these things you build up to, right? Because it's not a simple diagnosis, right? I think you guys would know, and I think in the case of many rare diseases, right, not just FA, just getting diagnosis is a long process. I think our family was fairly fortunate in that, we got diagnosed relatively quickly, but also, it's after, years of PT and OT and these kind of things, and you realize you have a neurological issue, not a physical one. And when you get that message of what the issue is, you take pause, right? It's shocking to you and your family, but I also think, my wife and I and our family's not wired to, have some self-pity, right? We had to sit back and think, how are we going to attack this, and what are we going to do to optimize the life of our daughter, and as or more important, how are we going to change the community, and how are we going to work to change the outcomes for all of these kids who are getting diagnosed with these disorders. It starts with FA, but I think it's a continuous storyline through all rare disease, right? From day one, right, I'm motivated as a father and as a parent, right? But that's one piece of it, right? I think you have an obligation to so many other people, right? I've been very fortunate. My wife and I, and my whole family's been very fortunate through our lives. I've had great opportunities. I've had great mentors. I've been taught a lot of things. And I think a lot of good graces have been bestowed upon us, and I think the response to that has to be you have a larger obligation to serve than maybe someone else does, right? And that's how we view it. I think my wife and I and all of our extended family views it as, listen, we have an opportunity and an obligation to try and do things to help the whole community, right? It's not just about our daughter, even though that's the initial force, right? We're trying to change outcomes for all of the patients. And I think, again, that's a theme within rare disease, right? I think if you look at any of these rare diseases that have great patient organizations, great research organizations, behind all of those things at some point, there's parents. And I would tell you, and I think you guys know this, right? You can make a difference, right? And I think every parent does it in their own way. And some do it from, raising money in their local community or having a backyard barbecue. Some do some of your bike rides. There's all sorts of different ways. And, some are financial, some are not, but everyone's got to participate. And I think the backbone of all the rare diseases, not just FA, right? Are parents and families building a community and pushing the agenda forward, right? And I think you guys probably see that firsthand with what you're doing with Ride Ataxia and the way you travel around in the ambassador program. It's really the force that makes change for the patient community.
I love that you keep talking about your role or your family's role as an obligation. I agree. It's a responsibility we have. You either have the skills or the talent or the resources or the know-how, and the best way the world goes around is to contribute where you're responsible. And Kyle and I had this conversation a few episodes. We were talking about a dear friend of ours, Holly LeBlanc, and she and I and Kyle, we all sat around talking about our responsibility to impact the rare disease community, no matter how big or small, but because we have what we have, or a perspective or an opinion or a way of living, we have an obligation, a responsibility to help encourage others, to help make a difference in the community. So I'm jiving with what you're putting down there, Tom.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
And, this reminds me, if you don't mind, our friend Matt Ruppel passed away a few weeks ago, and his friend wrote a thing that posted in the newspaper, and one of the things she wrote was at a fundraiser, Matt said, if I have all of you behind me, and excuse me if I get emotional for you here for a second, but if I have all of you behind me, he was talking to the crowd, I have faith that I will never give up.
Yeah.
And so I think that responsibility goes on. Like, those words have been in my head for the past 2 days because Matt was leaving us breadcrumbs. He was leaving us a clue, like, hey, this is the way. Like, keep going. And, we have to honor Matt's memory and Philip's memory and Chelsea and Keith and everyone who's come before us, working so hard. We have an obligation to continue that effort and keep it moving forward.
Well, listen, I think all that's right. And I think you too, you're fulfilling yours. So, I think the whole community thanks to both of you for what you do and how you push things along and make people feel like anything's possible. You had Ron Bartek on one of your podcasts a while ago, and he says, alone there's not much we can do, but together there's nothing we can't do. Right, and that's the truth. True. Matt was saying that. Ron has said that. Yeah. And I think when you get diagnosed with a rare disease, any rare disease, your first feeling, as you two know, is you're alone. Mm-hmm. And you sit in your house and, they give you a pamphlet and they say, best of luck to you. No cure, no treatment. Have a nice day. With the best intentions. But, the first 2 or 3 days you feel alone, and then you start reaching out. You find out there's people like Ron Bartek and Jen Farmer and Paul Avery and Pat Ritchell and you guys. Nobody's alone in these diseases anymore. Nobody.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So, Tom, going back to how the disease has impacted you and your family, you talked about your daughter being diagnosed. How old was she then? How old is she now? What does family life look like for you today?
My daughter was diagnosed at the age of 9. She was symptomatic, like most kids, for probably a few years before that. Just slightly clumsy. Diagnosed at 9. She is now 13. And like most rare diseases, right? Your best day was yesterday. But we don't sing the blues, right? I mean, I think sure. I truly believe, and I think my wife and I and my family all believes that the outcomes for patients today versus patients 10 years ago or 20 years ago or even a few years ago are significantly different. Mm-hmm. We choose to believe that our job is to keep our family as normal as possible, keep her as happy as can be, and she is happy. She's happy, she's smart, she's funny, and she values her friends like everybody else, and she's a teenager,
Awesome.
So it's all good. And your job as a parent, I think, is to keep a sense of normalcy. But as you guys know, there's physical therapy, there's staying in shape, there's eating right, there's making sure you sleep correct, making sure you stay healthy, because there will be a treatment at some juncture, and your health today is going to impact how that treatment helps you later. And I think, you try to keep it as normal as possible, right? I have 4 children total, right? So I think one of the challenges is how do you end up spending a lot of time on the disease. How do you keep your other children's lives normal?
Sure.
Right? I think all families struggle with this. But, you stay together, you spend time together. Having an extended family that supports you is so important. And we try to keep her smiling every day. And, thank God for my wife, because she does that.
So, Tom, since I know you, and we can all imagine that you have a laser focus on a lot of these things. And, I think there's an important balance, and you were talking about it some there, between throwing yourself wholeheartedly into finding a cure and living for the day right now, and making things better right now, or just accepting that that this is what today is going to bring in the challenges that we have today. And I don't think those things go together very well. So all the time, right?
They do not. They do not go together at all. Yeah.
It's hard. It's really impossible to accept when all you want is a cure. All you want is the end of it. And so how do you strike that balance?
Yeah. Well, not very well. I think it's it's my biggest personal struggle in that you get laser focused on things, and I do think that's what it takes to get things done. So whether I'm focused on chondrial therapeutics or another therapeutic pathway, or when we were working on the film together, whatever it might be that's on the table in front of me, I spend in a lot of time on that. And I think you're right. What I end up doing is getting too focused and pulling away from enjoying the day that's in front of me. And that's why I think you need family and you need support. And, my wife keeps me present. I spend a lot of time worrying about 2 years and 3 years and 5 years from now, when really maybe I ought to just worry about dinner. And it's I'm not good at that, and I think that it's got to be a struggle for anybody involved in these. You have hyper focus on how am I going to fix this, and you guys know that it's one of these failure isn't an option thing, and I'm not going to let that happen to me, right? So that's a lot of energy, and that's necessary energy to push the community forward. But you're right. I think you have to have your personal day-to-day life in order. And that takes balance. And I think that I spend a lot of energy trying to balance that. But the quick answer is I'm not good at it. My wife had said to me in the past, she just said in multiple stages of our life, she says, the things that make you really, really good at work make you really, really bad at home.
Man, she tells it how it is, huh?
It's a really quick and accurate summary for a lot of situations. So I think that's an important thing. I try to remember that, and I try to balance it. But I think it's probably a struggle for a lot of people. So I'm sympathetic.
Yeah, you say that your family keeps you balanced, and I agree with that. I have a really great family, but also I think that our FA family, keeps us balanced too. It's incredible to connect with others who understand the struggle and who are trying to strike the same exact balance, and to learn from each other and to support each other. And I think you've done a great job of that, and that's what we're all here to do.
Yeah, you're nice to say. I don't feel that yet, but I'm getting there.
It's a process for all of us. You kickstarted Conjure Therapeutics around a therapy for FA.
Right.
You once told me that details matter, and I imagine that you need a pretty sound understanding of the science behind FA to kickstart a therapy company. How did you learn so quickly? How did you jump right in? What was your method?
Well, it's amazing. First of all, I have no medical training. I'm not I think I did not do even well in high school biology, right? So it's not my background. But I would also say it's amazing how much you can just learn from reading. And, I'm sure you see all the scientific articles about our particular disorder, and they exist for all rare diseases. And I may have to read them 4 or 5 or 6 times over to really get to the bottom of it, and I do. But, it's your child, right? I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing motivation, and you'll do anything for your child. And if I have to read that article 100 times, I'm going to do it. And I think that's what I did. It's what my wife did. Obviously, there's so many people way smarter than me who helped get all this going. Hopefully, some of the skill sets I added were, organization, bringing teams together, getting leadership in place, and pushing an agenda. Sometimes you just need to have focus on pushing things forward. And Kyle, you've said that many times, right? Just keep moving, right? And I agree with that. The Conjure, when my daughter was first diagnosed, we called down to FARA, and talked to Ron, and we talked to Jen Farmer. For those that don't know, it's a Friedreich's Ataxia Research Alliance, and it's a great patient research organization for our disorder, but they exist for many rare diseases. And I said, okay, just listen, I don't want to replicate anything. You guys are way smarter than me. Just tell me things that are stuck. Tell me things that need help, because I only want to add value. I don't want to redo anything. And they said, oh, there's this therapy that's, kind of not stuck, but has been sitting on a shelf a little bit. You should talk to this doctor. So we flew out to Indiana. I talked to Dr. Mark Payne. We talked through the, what the problems were with the therapy, what tests we needed to do, what kind of funding we needed, how are we going to set this up, and you have to start planning, right? Most things fail because they either don't have a plan or they have a plan and they didn't execute it. Mm-hmm. And I would argue that the former is way more important. Most people just don't have a plan. So getting down on paper, here's what we're actually going to do, making sure people are accountable, making sure there's transparency, making sure there's goals and benchmarks and milestones. Those things are really important. It doesn't mean they don't move around, doesn't mean you can't have flexibility. But I think, having that and putting some of that, instilling some of that discipline into the scientific community and into medicine has been beneficial and has helped move some of these things along. The film was another example, right? It was another thing that was, in my mind, a gem that was kind of sitting on the floor a little bit, right?
It was stuck.
Yeah, it was stuck, right? We all did it together, right? I mean, and if you think about, we needed money, but that wasn't. You think of the amazing things that you guys did to make that film happen, and for it not to be finished would have been a tragedy. So, I mean, I commend you guys and your whole team for that. It was unbelievable. But it's just another example where, what do I know about filmmaking? Absolutely nothing. Okay, sure. But that's not what it took, right? And I think that applies sometimes to medicine, right? You're betting on the person sometimes as much as the actual idea. Now you have to dig in, you have to know the details, and you have to get your hands dirty. I always believe that. But you have to surround yourself with good people and create good teams and make sure there's the right plan. hopefully you have been able to do some of that and move some things along. But it's because of other people, right? It's not like I'm doing all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, but it takes the initiative, and I mean, as far as the movie goes, for me personally, I think to thank Tom every day. Tom, you were talking about Chondrial Therapeutics and, the fact that details matter, and you were talking about schedules and stuff. So I hope you don't mind if I put you on the spot. I know there's a lot of listeners out there that want to know, what is Chondrial, what's this therapy for FA, and what does the timeline look like?
Well, it's tough to say. We're currently, we're dealing with some manufacturing issues. I don't know if people know, but Chondrial is really a biologic drug, and it's going to be probably the first biologic in the FA pipeline. And the manufacturing of biologics is a complicated endeavor. But that said, we're working through some of those issues. The current plan was to be able to start a phase 1 trial towards the end of 2018. I believe that that's still on track, but you never know what happens with these things. So, the early results we have are very good, and we hope to be on track for hopefully a year from now. We're having better conversation about that. But listen, as people know, the drug development timeline's long. It's littered with potholes, and you just have to attack them as they come along. But things are moving forward, and we're very positive on the prospects for a therapy.
Right. So, yeah, and I realized that was kind of an unfair question because I know the answer. Like, I know that is the answer. There's no predicting these things sometimes. But I also feel the obligation to ask those questions because I know there's a lot of people out there who that's the first thing that's running through their mind. And, okay, fine. Selfishly, I wanted to ask that question too. Yep. So.
Well, I'd just say, I think people are always leery about giving timelines because there's a danger in ever over-promising something to a patient, and I think it's a very sensitive thing to do. So, right. I think those questions are sensitive for a reason. But if I had any message, put Chondrial aside. My message would be, listen, there's a lot of therapeutics on the horizon. There's a lot of trials in the pipeline, certainly for Friedreich's ataxia. And I think the outcomes in the next few years are going to be significantly better, significantly different, and more advanced than they've been in the past. So as opposed to hanging your hat on a timeline, I'd say, listen, stay healthy, and, there's help coming,
Mm-hmm.
So, Tom, I wanted to ask you about the Cure FA Foundation. You're the co-founder of this foundation, and can you tell us a little bit about how it got started and what its focus is?
Sure. My wife and I founded Cure FA, and we really felt that it would be helpful to have something that could make larger capital investments. The patient and the research and the basic science organizations are fantastic, and FARA is one of the best. And it's really meant to complement everything FARA does. The fact is, some of these therapies and some of these initiatives take bigger dollars. And sometimes, a $300,000 basic science grant isn't enough. So we wanted to create something that could attack more of a translational medicine kind of space. When people need $1 million or $2 million, maybe there should be something nearby that's not in conflict with anything FARA is doing that could help push the disease along. And that's what we've tried to do. We work hand in hand with FARA with any basic science that we do. And obviously they're fully engaged in all of our projects. So it's not meant to replace or do anything better or worse, but really to augment and maybe have a place to have a little more capital to push along some of the therapies that are either stuck or just need more capital because they're expensive. Gene therapy and manufacturing of vectors. These things are very expensive endeavors, and it's just unrealistic for a patient organization to think they can make those kind of investments with a 15,000 person patient community. So we tried to raise some money to have a vehicle to do that, and we've made some progress. So it's really meant to be a complementary organization, and hopefully can help push the disease along.
Beautiful. I know one of the initiatives is the FA Center of Excellence at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and University of Pennsylvania. Can you tell me a little bit about the Center of Excellence, what it does, and what are your hopes for it?
Sure. So one of the other things, when we first were diagnosed, we were down at CHOP, and we were asking the clinicians, the scientists, the basic scientists, medicinal chemists, you name it, that are involved in research for the disease. What do you need? What's stopping you from making progress? And consistently, the answer we got back was time. They're spending time filling out grants for the NIH or filling out grants for this, grant application for that, and they're spending 40% of their time doing paperwork. So we tried to take that off the table, was one thing. The second thing was we felt like, at least in Friedreich's ataxia, and I know this is specific, people, lose their ability to walk, but they die from heart disease. And we didn't feel like there was enough cardiac care within the disease. So that was another thing we wanted to attack. And we also felt like just bringing all the clinicians and doctors together on a regular basis would help. So we tried to give them more time. We brought a pediatric cardiologist in from CHOP to help. We have Dr. Rob Wilson, who many people know within the community, who's working on drug discovery for us. We have Dr. Ian Blair from University of Pennsylvania, who's doing biomarker work. And we have a team of people now that's dedicated to just FA research. And, I'm down in Philly, as you know, every 3 weeks or every month, and we all sit down. And it's not just the 4 doctors, right? It's the PhD students, the grad students, the medicinal chemists, the people who are doing the work in cell cultures. We have a mouse facility now. We do drug testing for commercial companies on some of our animal models. But it's really meant to, how do we give leverage to, Dave Lynch, who is a, world-renowned clinician in FA, right? How do we give them leverage? And what are the points where we can really get more out of them? And I think that's what we tried to do. So we structured that. We funded it now for 6 years through 2020, I believe. And we're making progress, and hopefully it's really a center for all information that's FA. And I think, I think it's a model. I really believe it's a model for rare diseases. If you can get a lot of the intellect and a lot of the scientific power, even if it's not in one location, right? Just having people coordinate and meet and talk and forcing that discussion and discipline is something of value. And I think it's a model that other diseases could even use to really start pushing their scientific research and their therapies forward.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think if I boil it down, I feel like the whole principle behind the COE, Center of Excellence, is to get everyone in the same room and share ideas and move forward together and not, work in silos, but discuss everything, lay it all out on the table and be like, all right, this is how we're going to do it.
That's right. Yeah, doctors and scientists don't have, they have amazing qualities that we don't possess. But they also have sometimes limited organizational skills or limited leadership or limited mentorship or, and it's no one's fault, right? It's the structure of, I really believe the structure of medicine is that way, where these guys are sent out to kind of fend for themselves and fund themselves. And I'm not sure the model works as well as it could. It's it works, but it could use some culture. It could use some leadership. It could use some direction. And it's in a small scale. That's something that we try to provide. And I think all the doctors are participants in that. We're not leading them. It's just, getting them in the same room, like you said, has been really important.
I want to ask a question on behalf of all the other parents out there who are facing rare disease every day and trying to figure out where they fit. And I know one of the thoughts, especially listening to you, is, hey, dude, I'm not a CEO. I don't know how to start a company. What advice do you have for the parent who feels like they don't have the resources to make a difference?
Well, I think everyone can make a difference in their own way, right? I think, as we had said earlier, you do what you can, right? Some people have different skill sets, and maybe it's raising money or creating awareness. But to the parents, what I'd say is the first thing you can do is read as much as you can. Having as much basic knowledge about the disease that your child has and becoming the expert is really important. And I think you can spend time doing that. And don't underestimate how much you can learn by simply reading documents. Some of these scientific articles, as deep as they might be, read it 3, 4, 5 times, like I still do. And it takes time, and you can ask questions, and you can become smarter about what's going on in your child's life. And that's not FA specific, right? That's rare disease specific, because, the doctors sometimes don't have time to stay up on the literature, right? It's not a big market, right? How do you stay in front of everything that's going on within your disease, right? It's not easy. So I think for parents, I'd say stay well informed, read as much as you can, and keep your child happy, keep your child healthy, and do what you can do, right? I don't think one is more important than the next. Whether you come from a lot of means and give away a lot of money, and you can help do bigger things, I don't think it's more or less important than the person who's riding in the Ride Ataxia ride in Philadelphia and raising awareness, right? What you're doing for your child and for the community is the same, right? You can participate in the natural history study. You can participate, in clinical trials. Like, be a part of the community and understand your disease as much as you can. And don't ever think, you can't ever think that what you're doing is not impactful. A lot of these things, it's not an immediate feedback loop. You have to just keep moving forward and doing these things. And eventually things are coming together. And I think as a parent, you have to believe that. Don't think that, hey, just me riding a bike in the Ride Ataxia ride with Kyle is not helping anybody. It's nonsense. It is helping. It's helping people be aware. It's helping your child feel better. It's helping the other kids around them feel like they're not alone in the disease, right? These are very meaningful things that you can't put dollar amounts on. And because of that, it doesn't make it any more or less important. And don't ever think that your contribution is less than someone else's, because it's just not the case, right? The community needs everybody to do what they're capable of doing, right? And no one's going to critique you for not doing enough. Do what you can, keep your child happy, read as much as you can, and be part of the community. That's all anyone can ask for. And I think as a parent, you'll feel good doing that, right? And that's enough. And I think it moves the ball forward.
There's one thing you talk about being part of the community, and so many times in a devastating or challenging area or season of life, so much of what gets people through is just having somebody else that lends a shoulder.
That's right.
So even if you're not writing or volunteering or giving away money, just being there as another set of ears, another set of eyes, somebody to walk hand in hand with, could make and does make a world of difference for 1 or 2 or 3,000, 15,000 people. So I agree, just being a part of the community, just showing up here and there and hanging out and letting people know who you are, definitely makes an impact.
Yeah, Sean, I'll quote you. One of the things that you've said several times on the podcast is, I don't have millions of dollars to give. You know, I don't have some of these resources or skill sets, but what I can do is participate. And specifically, it was with regard to clinical trials, but it goes for everything we do, and just being there and being part of a community, like Tom said.
For sure.
Yeah, it's true for all rare diseases, right? The worst feeling for a patient and a family is for them to feel like they're the only one with the disease. That's the worst, right? You have to have people around you. You have to form a community, because you can't tackle these things alone. And
I think even beyond rare disease, you think about like the 12-step programs for addictions.
Yeah.
All they do is talk about they just sit in a circle and become friends. Yeah. Essentially, they work through things together, but essentially all they're doing is creating community, a safe place to live and talk about life. So great point there, Tom. Thank you so much.
So Tom, before we go, I just had one sort of last question for you. Do you sleep at all?
It's funny. When I worked on Wall Street, as we said, I got up at 4:30 in the morning for 25 years. I sleep plenty, by the way. So it's been a gift to not have to do that anymore. To get up at 6 or 6:30 is a gift. So, it's hard. You guys know as well as anybody, right? This is front and center in your life every day, and there's not a minute of your day that this disease is not impacting you, and I feel that way. So, you find out what your priorities are by how you spend your time, and I want to spend my time pushing this thing forward so that you guys, my daughter, and 15,000 other kids can live better lives. That's what we want to do. And if not sleeping a little longer can help do that, I'm going to do that.
What's the favorite thing going on in your life today? What is something that you get really excited about or makes you happy?
Well, I love seeing the progress we've made. I feel like I'm such a small piece, and my family's been such a small piece of this, that we've stood on the shoulders of some giants, and like Ron and Jen and Paul, and people have set up this community to push things along, and they were so smart to do it the way they did. And you think back, Kyle, when we started working on the film, right, 2009. There was 3 biotech companies involved in our small little disease. Now there's 20. Right? The progress has been happening around us, right? And that gives me joy. If I'm a small part of any of that, it gives me joy. And I know I'm only a small part. It's taken there's so many smart people, so many tireless workers. People have dedicated their lives to try to make outcomes of these patients better. And it's humbling to see. And, my wife and I will always say that, God, we hate this disease more than anything, but man, we've met the most kind-hearted, warm, hardworking group of people that we've ever, had the experience to. And that's a gift, right? You have to look through all the bad things going on, and what are the gifts you're getting? And one of them is the people we've met. I've met you 2 guys, right? I've met Jen Farmer. I've met Ron Bartek. I've met these people in this amazing disease community that care so deeply about something. And that's a humbling thing to be around. Not sure that's what you're looking for, Sean. I try to play the guitar too, but I'm really bad.
I've heard you play the guitar and sing late at night. It's a lot of fun.
I always do it late at night because people have had some drinks and they think I sound much better.
And, yeah, everything's better after some drinks.
It's very strategic.
Awesome. All right. Well, Tom, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you for giving us your time. I know you're on vacation and you've got a family to hang out with today, so I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Find us online at twodisableddudes.com. And please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts.
We'd like to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Special thanks to our audio producer, Jake Tompkins, who also composed the music.
Until next time, keep living with urgency.